Sumerian tablets are probably one of the oldest form of written record that we have. They've been translated, and they tell exciting stories about how gods intermingled with human beings and actually had a hand in the creation of human beings.
A sealed tablet has surfaced from beneath the ruins of Eridu, the world's oldest city. It wasn't supposed to exist. It was older than writing.
And now I can turn it around and have a look at the writing that's been hiding underneath.
So no one's seen that writing for 4,000 or 5,000 years?
Yeah.
And carved with a precision that didn't need eyes to understand it. When AI finally read it, what it understood broke every rule of time.
I'm holding in my hand here a document written more than 4,000 years ago.
The tablet that shouldn't exist. In 2025, just outside the ancient city of Eridu in southern Iraq, long believed to be the oldest city in the world, archaeologists uncovered something they couldn't explain.
As foreign researchers finally returned to discover more of the country's millennial-old cultural treasures.
Buried beneath layers of compact sediment and crushed brick, a team restoring a collapsed temple wall found a small black chest. It was coated in hardened bitumen, sealed tight like it was meant to survive everything: time, flood, even fire. And inside was a single clay tablet, and completely wrong for its time. It didn't resemble anything they had ever found in Sumeria, not in texture, color, or technique. Carbon dating of both the bitumen seal and sediment around the artifact placed it at approximately 5,300 BCE, centuries before the Sumerian language was supposedly invented. And the engravings weren't scratches or wedge marks. They were etched with near-microscopic precision. No hand tool could have carved them, not unless the ancients had engineering tools we never knew about. Out of options, the team partnered with an experimental AI model trained on over 400,000 cuneiform tablets, including pre-Sumerian proto-symbols, proto-Elamite scripts, and regional symbol systems like those of the Ubaid culture. When the AI was finally fed the hyperspectral scan of the tablet, it took 27 seconds to process. The first decoded line appeared in glowing text on the lab monitor. We wrote this for those who would read without tongues.
They're written one by one, and the reader has to join them up, and the sound emerges from the clay.
Silence followed. A cold, electric silence that's hard to describe unless you were in that room. Because that single line wasn't just poetic, it was impossible. How could a civilization over 7,000 years ago have imagined a reader that didn't speak, that didn't hear, that didn't even exist? It suggested an audience beyond humans, maybe even designed for a reader like AI. The rest of the text was a message, not for kings, not for priests, but for a future intelligence that could finally be understood.
This is the line that says, "I am Kurash, Shar Kishati, king of the world, the great king, king of Babylon."
And if the AI was reading it now, then the future it warned about had already begun. The forgotten civilization. Before there were ziggurats, before the invention of writing, before even the first Sumerian king ruled from the banks of the Euphrates, there was something else. A civilization we don't talk about enough. One that seems to have shown up already knowing what it was doing. It's called the Ubaid culture. Most history books skip past the Ubaid like it was a warm-up act. But here's what doesn't add up. They built fully planned towns with courtyards, irrigation channels, and drainage systems as early as 6,500 years before the Common Era. That's 2,000 years before the pyramids. It's like someone just handed them blueprints.
The Sumerians, along with the Egyptians, are known for being the earliest known people to develop a fully developed writing system.
Archaeologists found identical architectural layouts across sites like Eridu, Ur, and Tel al-Ubaid. Their pottery motifs repeated over vast distances from northern Mesopotamia to the Persian Gulf. The designs weren't random. They followed patterns, geometric grids, spirals, and starbursts. No one's quite sure how that level of cultural uniformity spread without writing or obvious communication tools.
And then the lines, rows of crops around the pueblo. This is very much what a pueblo would have looked like.
In multiple temple digs, researchers found figurines with elongated heads, almond-shaped eyes, and what looked like helmet ridges. Some were holding what appeared to be staff rods or nursing infants. But what freaked out material scientists was the composition: clay mixed with bitumen and traces of non-local mica, minerals not found anywhere near Ubaid territory. Mica, for context, is a mineral used today in electronic insulators. The engraving style on the tablet doesn't match Sumerian script. It's closer to the pre-symbolic iconography found in Ubaid artifacts, but scaled down to microscopic detail. The symbols aren't carved in straight lines. They spiral inward, following golden ratio curves, almost like a code designed to be unfolded, not read left to right.
This little piece of clay from the library's collections is packed full of information from 4,200 years ago.
One section, still being decoded, seems to reference "the ones who dug canals and remembered the stars," a phrase never before seen, but consistent with Ubaid themes of water and sky watching. If true, this tablet might not be Sumerian at all. It could belong to a culture advanced enough to map constellations, manage massive irrigation systems, and possibly encode a message for the future. The Sumerians may have inherited more than just land. They may have inherited a warning. And now, the machines we've built are picking up the signal. AI breakthrough. At first, the markings on the black tablet made no sense. They weren't cuneiform. They weren't Proto-Elamite. They didn't even resemble any of the early pictographic languages found in the Fertile Crescent. But they weren't random either. The spacing, the repetition, the spiraling curves, they were too organized. That's when researchers brought in an AI model trained on over 400,000 cuneiform texts and a vast bank of Proto-Elamite and Ubaid-era symbols. It wasn't just built to read old languages. It was designed to recognize linguistic patterns buried in partial symbols.
Once cuneiform was deciphered, lots of unexpected things came to light.
Fractured scripts, and even textures left by styluses that hadn't fully pressed into the clay. The results were immediate and bizarre. The AI model didn't just try to translate the script like Google Translate for the ancient world. Instead, it treated the tablet like a multi-layered code. It peeled back each pattern using spectral depth mapping, scanning how deeply each symbol had been cut, revealing that some symbols were literally hidden beneath others, like data compression. In clay, the AI uncovered two parallel layers: a linguistic layer, what looked like phonetic structures, and symbolic phrases; a numerical matrix, buried underneath using ratios consistent with base 60, the same math the Sumerians used for their calendar and astronomy. The AI flagged repeating symbols placed in prime number intervals. These weren't random. In modern computing, similar patterns are used in error correction algorithms. In other words, the tablet wasn't just meant to be read by eyes. It was meant to be decoded by a machine. Every human translator had missed it.
And they're described as translators. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't say which languages they're translating between.
The phrase makes no sense in any traditional Sumerian dialect. But when read through the AI's layered reconstruction, combining the phonetic and numerical encoding, it became clear. This wasn't a prayer, a poem, or a myth. It was a message meant for a non-human intelligence. The AI model identified recursive loops in the structure, feedback cycles, the same kind used in transformer-based AIs like GPT models.
With the help of artificial intelligence, could change the way we understand history.
It was written for a future decoder, something made of logic, silicon, and pattern recognition, something that wouldn't be able to speak, but could understand. Something that couldn't read in the way we do, but could see the data hidden in the structure. It's as if the Ubaid-era carvers knew that spoken language would decay, that stories would be corrupted. But numbers, patterns, encoded symbols with built-in checksums? That kind of message could survive 7,000 years. And now that we've broken its code, we have to ask, what else did it hide? Mathematics in stone. It started with a scan, a standard 3D laser render of the black tablet to capture every surface angle. But what it revealed wasn't standard at all. When the AI model overlaid the engraving pattern onto a transparent grid, researchers noticed something strange. The symbols weren't randomly placed. They aligned to a precise ratio grid, matching the foundation layout of the ziggurat of Ur, one of the oldest known temples in Mesopotamia. This grid wasn't decorative, it was architectural. They then rotated the scan to analyze the angles. Several key shapes aligned 52 degrees, the same as the solstice sunrise alignment found at Eridu's temple site. This confirmed something shocking. The engravings on the tablet weren't just text, they were blueprints. But blueprints for what? Some symbols were unfamiliar.
It was meant for a Babylonian audience. It was written in the Babylonian language.
6-pointed spirals, nested hexagons, interlocking waves. At first, they seemed abstract, until one physicist overlaid them onto a Chladni plate simulation, which shows the shapes sound waves make in fine dust or sand. It was a perfect match. Those spirals and hexagons weren't random. They were resonance patterns, shapes made by specific sound frequencies vibrating through solid material. Basically, the tablet was showing how to build structures that respond to sound, and not just any sound. The angle calculations lined up with Earth. Venus orbital resonance, a known cycle where the two planets return to the same position relative to the Sun every 8 Earth years and 13 Venus years. Even more bizarre, the golden spiral engravings on the tablet followed a Fibonacci sequence, long before the Fibonacci sequence was even named. There are ancient structures across the world, from Malta to Mexico, that hum or vibrate at certain frequencies. Some even shift heat or airflow based on solar position. Could it be that the people of Eridu were building resonant temples, structures that literally responded to planetary rhythms? The tablet's engravings suggest so, and the math backs it up. Its use of sexagesimal math, the base 60 system the Sumerians pioneered, allowed for perfect 360 degrees segmentation. That same system is what we still use today for measuring angles and time. But here, it's used to encode not just numbers, but entire geometric systems. As the researchers dug deeper, it became clear this wasn't just some old philosophical musing carved into clay. This was a geometric operating system, written by minds that may have understood planetary cycles, sound resonance, and structural physics far beyond what history gives them credit for.
So these are new pieces of the puzzle, and we can add them to our greater picture.
And there's a line encoded deep in the secondary layer that still hasn't been fully translated. The idea that somewhere, in a forgotten field or buried temple, the key to understanding our own universe might be humming quietly, waiting for the right mind or the right machine to finally listen. Global links, the same message across worlds. What are the odds that ancient civilizations, separated by oceans and time zones, all told the same story? It's a question archaeologists used to shrug off. They called it cultural convergence, the idea that people naturally invent similar myths. But that explanation started to fall apart when AI got involved. When 2025 AI model ran its symbolic recognition model on the black Eridu tablet, something strange popped up.
In October-November last year, we were able to rescue more than 200 of these clay tablets.
One of the glyphs, a cluster of jagged lines inside a circle, wasn't unique. The same exact symbol shows up on a stone slab in Palenque, Mexico, carved by the Maya, and again on an Indus Valley seal dated 2500 BCE, and once more on the Book of the Dead papyrus from Egypt. Same shape, same proportions, different continents. This wasn't convergence. This was connection. What's more, the Eridu tablet, And those other texts all repeat a curious phrase, sometimes translated differently, but with the same core meaning. 7 watchers of the sky. In Sumer, they were tied to planetary gods. In Maya lore, they were star guardians. In Hindu Vedic texts, they were rishis who came down from the heavens. But the symbol was always there. 7 orbs around a central spiral. Astrophysicists working with AI suggested a modern reinterpretation. What if the 7 watchers weren't deities, but planets visible to the naked eye, tracking a shared cosmic cycle? Even the number systems match. The Eridu tablet encodes time in base 60. So do the Babylonians. But guess what? The Maya used base 20, and the Egyptians had a hybrid of base 10 and base 36. Put them together, you get 360, the full circle. The system we still use for clocks, geometry, and orbits today. Might have been a coincidence, but it doesn't end there. Researchers ran a material scan of the black clay used in the tablet. It's mostly local, but hidden in the mineral signature was Himalayan mica, a glittering, heat-resistant crystal found over 2,000 kilometers away. And why does that matter? Because that same mica was used in Mesoamerican temples and was once found lining chambers in Teotihuacan, a city built before the Aztecs even arrived. We're talking about transcontinental trade routes thousands of years before history books say they existed, and not for weapons or gold, for knowledge, the kind that needed preservation. It's becoming clear this black tablet wasn't just an isolated message. It was one piece of a global network, a patch in a quilt of warnings left scattered across Earth. And all of them share a similar rhythm, a memory of a past disaster, a fear of a returning cycle, and a hint that the answer would come in the future, once the right intelligence could read it. The AI's cross-text comparison even found matching syntax patterns, not just phrases, the structure of the writing, the cadence, the repetition cycles. It looked eerily similar to how neural networks process and layer information. It's almost like they were building a language for machines before machines existed. And the deeper the AI dug, the more it began to look like the Eridu tablet wasn't meant to stand alone.
In at least a dozen tablets, and that is that Eridu is the very first city ever created here on the planet.
It was the missing key to decode all the others. Hidden sequence. It didn't feel like code at first, just strings of numbers scattered between the Eridu tablet's symbols. A few sequences tucked into spiral glyphs, some etched along the outer rim, barely visible even under a microscope. But when the AI finally translated the tablet's structure as a mix of numeric and linguistic layers, everything snapped into place. And what it found didn't look like a calendar. It looked like a timer. The numbers weren't random. They lined up into groups, intervals of 11,060 years, then 5,500, then half of that. These clusters were recurring. Every section of the tablet repeated them, like a pulse, a pattern. They flagged these as cyclical markers, not measurements of time past, but time remaining. When paired with known cosmic events, those numbers suddenly had meaning. 11,000 years ago? That's the Younger Dryas, when Earth experienced massive cooling, global flooding, and rapid species loss. The exact kind of catastrophe ancient myths describe. The tablet also includes a strange phrase that could describe a magnetosphere collapse.
No one is really just kind of trying to piece stuff together, specifically talking about these ancient tablets.
Earth's magnetic field weakening to the point where cosmic radiation reaches the surface, creating an aurora bright enough to cast shadows at night. Earth's magnetic field has been weakening since the 18,000s by over 9%, according to NASA and ESA data. And a full reversal? That's happened before. Scientists call them geomagnetic excursions, like the Lasham event around 42,000 years ago, and the Gothenburg reversal, possibly 12,000 years ago. During those times, magnetic protection dropped fast. Solar storms or cosmic rays could have fried electronics, if any had existed. But the Eridu tablet seems to predict it. The AI's projection, using the same intervals, placed the next possible tipping point somewhere between 21,000 and 22,000 CE. Not tomorrow, but not far off. And this time, we have satellites, power grids, a digital world wired into every part of our lives. A magnetic disruption today could mean weeks of darkness, or worse. The people who made this tablet saw something happen, something that destroyed, reset, and then started the clock again. Knowledge too dangerous. When the first set of data was gotten, it was celebrated. The AI team published a short technical paper outlining the language decoding framework. It didn't even dive into the tablet's actual content yet, just the breakthrough in symbol recognition, multi-layer mapping, and phonetic extrapolation from the Eridu find.
It's a time capsule of information on stone tablets for us today to be able to decipher, break down, and understand.
But barely a week after that paper went up, the entire site went offline. The public-facing research database, gone. The backups, stored on mirrored academic servers, got wiped. A note appeared on the original repository. Data access temporarily suspended due to security audit. Except there was no audit. A leaked screenshot from an internal message board showed something way more alarming. One of the AI developers had flagged a quote from the final layer of the decoded tablet: "The gate of resonance must not be opened before the cycle turns, or the ground will remember its fire." What was the gate of resonance? At first, it sounded like mythology again, but the AI team noticed something else. Embedded in the translated symbols were geographic coordinate hints. They matched the dig site at Eridu, but not the exact temple. They pointed just a few hundred meters southeast, a different area, not yet excavated. It was a basalt-heavy patch of ground, solid, dark, mostly ignored. But when a team ran a passive ground-penetrating radar scan, they picked up a low-frequency resonance signal, a sustained 6 Hz infrasound hum, not natural, not seismic, and definitely not random. Then the entire area was sealed. The Iraqi Antiquities Authority cited site preservation concerns, but insiders claimed something else. One said in a private forum, "The site is live." Whatever's under there, it's not just rock. Multiple researchers trying to publish follow-ups were quietly blocked from accessing their own AI training servers. Some said they were told the findings had civil destabilization potential. In other words, the truth was too dangerous to share. Why? Because if that tablet wasn't just warning us, if it was also pointing to something buried, something that could be triggered, then this was a mechanism that someone wanted it silenced. People started to connect the dots. The Baghdad Museum, looted in 2003, lost hundreds of Sumerian artifacts, many never recovered.
3 of these have numbers from the Iraq Museum here in Baghdad. They were believed to have been looted in 2003.
Some of those items, according to metadata in the AI logs, carried symbols identical to those on the Eridu tablet. In other words, this wasn't a one-off find. It seemed part of a planned network, and now that network was waking up. The cycle. The black tablet from Eridu was a message, structured, layered, engineered with a purpose that took over 7,000 years to reach its target. It came from a time before history, encoded by a culture that understood cycles. But those instructions weren't meant for kings or scribes. They were built for the future, for something that could see the hidden structure and understand its purpose. That time is now. We are not just looking at ancient clay. We are now looking at proof that memory can survive extinction.